What's going on, YouTube? Thanks for tuning into the Rolling Times. Today, Chris's 2017 Golf R is back for some more work. That downpipe was so good. He uploaded the stage 2 tune and he cooked his rear brakes. So we're going to be doing some rear brakes. While it's here for rear brakes, he wanted us to install an APR short shift kit, do a tune-up with new coil, ignition coils, and spark plugs. And we also have a O2 spacer to put in on that USP downpipe, because he did get a P0420 for the cat. So just it went away, but just out of the sake of being safe, we're going to go ahead and throw that in there as well. Before we get started doing these rear brakes, I just want to let you guys know that with an electronic parking brake car like this Golf R or some of the newer GTIs, you're going to need a special kind of scan tool or VAGCOM, something to get into the computer to put the brakes into service mode. In today's video, we're going to be trying out the OBD11 Pro. That looked like the most cost-effective option. I think it was right around $100 for the device and the Pro subscription. That's annual subscription. I think it's like $25 a year for the Pro. So we'll see if that's capable of doing it. If not, I did see some $100-ish scan tools on Amazon that say they can do it. Some of the reviews were mixed, saying whether it worked or not. So not sure if one of those would work. Then you got VAGCOMs. I know some people have it, so somebody usually knows someone that has it. But you do need something like that to do these rear brakes. I have seen a few electronic brake tutorials where they hook 12 volts to them to spin the calipers in. I don't recommend doing that. If you mess up a caliper, or even worse, you mess up the computer by doing that somehow, you're gonna really regret not spending $50 to $100 on getting a scan tool that can reset the brakes. If the battery dies during this process, it can cause some hiccups, so Volkswagen recommends that we put the battery on a charger. Just to make sure the battery does not die while we are putting the brakes in service mode. Okay, so we got the OBD11 plugged into the OBD port. Keys on, ignition power, but obviously the engine's not running. And if you guys are using this for the first time, you'll probably have an update too.
You can't see it. Your screen's too bright.
Okay, once we're in the OBD11 app, we're all connected with the car. We want to go to the menu here. We're going to go to Brakes, Basic Settings, and then we're going to find Start Lining Change Mode. You can hear the e-brake assemblies turning in. Next, we're going to jack up the car, get the wheels off, and start changing the pads and rotors. Security lug. Lift the car up. Let's go ahead and crack all the lug bolts loose. You got really good air tools, or if you charge your electric stuff and you know you always got a good battery, probably don't have to do this step, but better safe than sorry. Set off the ground.
That was neat.
This tire backwards. Whoever put your tires on, put them on backwards, Chris.
Unless you're driving in reverse all the time.
This one's on backwards too. But remember, he had a flat?
Yes.
That's why he's got one different. Alright, so 3 of the tires are on backwards. and then one of them is not a directional tire. I remember Chris telling me he got a flat. He was asking if I had any spare wheels. So that explains why one's different, but it doesn't explain why 3 of them are on backwards.
That makes me sad.
What? Take those guys out. Pop your spring clip out. I always like to compress the caliper this way. It's a lot easier as long as your slide pins are working. And don't worry, there's people that think you need the screw-in style. They are for the mechanical e-brake. The electronic e-brake, everything winds back in, and then you can just push the piston in just like a regular caliper. I think those are 7mm for the slide pins. 7mm Allen, that is. Yep.
And the one you need is not there.
For this upper one, the brake hose is in the way a little bit. You can just use an extension or a swivel. Upper slide pins out. Still have that lower one to do yet. Okay. Caliper is off.
Let's see the pads.
Just make sure you support the caliper so it's not hanging by the hose or the plug for the motor. There's your brake pad. You can see it's pretty thin, less than 2/32, so it might be right at 2/32 for passing inspection, but the way Chris drives, these things weren't going to last much longer. Honestly, I'm surprised they lasted this long. Okay, we got our impact driver T30 Torx bit for this rotor bolt. Look at that, worked like a charm. We even got the 3/8 to 1/4 inch adapter there. Look at that. You don't even have to take the caliper bracket off. That's an old Volkswagen trick. Before we put the new rotor on, we're just going to clean all the rust off this hub. Not a whole lot on here since it's a fairly new car, but that just makes our job a little easier. Most of the time when you get new brake rotors, they have a light coating of like an oily base. This is to keep the rotors from rusting when they sit in the warehouse, if they get in any kind of humidity. It probably won't hurt if you don't clean it off, but we always recommend cleaning that off with some brake clean. At least cleaning it off the brake surface. Save ourselves some trouble next time. Make it a lot easier to get the rotor off and keep this rust from building back up. We're going to go ahead and grease this hub. You use grease or anti-seize. We usually just use brake grease for everything.
Does it prevent squeaks?
Well, the reason we do this is if there's any rust on the hub, in between the hub and the rotor, it can cause slight vibrations or shakes because everything's not seated 100% flush. Most cars, I'd say you don't need this, but because we're dealing with lug bolts instead of lug studs, you definitely want this on the Volkswagens. Next up, we got to grease our caliper bracket before we put the new pads in. We just want to grease all the contact points where the pad touches the caliper bracket. Go ahead and clean up the slide pins and re-grease them too before we put our pads in. If they're just dirty, you can wipe them off. If they're starting to get rusty, you can take the wire wheel to them as well. And what I like to do is actually get the grease in the caliper where they sit. We got our EBC brake pads here, the red stuff. These are the ceramic. I think it's their best pad for performance in light brake dust. If you're not worried about the brake dust, there definitely are some better performing pads that they offer. This is your inside pad with these two nipples here on the outside, and your spring that goes on the inside. And then this with no spring is that's the easiest way to tell. It's going to be your outside pad. Since the caliper contacts the pads here on the outside, I always put a light coating of grease. And same thing on the inside where that caliper piston touches. Don't forget these, they keep the grease in the slide pins. If you forget to put them in, the grease will dry up and your slide pins will stick. Also, don't forget this guy. Here, you want to film me putting them on? These are always fun to get on. I usually start one corner. Get that one kind of in.
Look at that.
Wow, I must be getting good at this or something.
Like butter.
There you go. You're going to put a light coat of grease on this rotor where the wheel sits on there, just to prevent any corrosion buildup. This wheel's going to go back on. We're going to go do the same thing on the other side, and then I'll be back with you guys to show you how to wrap up the OBD11 inside the car. Alright, little trick for you guys. You're not used to dealing with VW wheels on the ground. Get your long or your deep socket, put your lug bolt in there, find your hole in the rotor, find your hole in the wheel, and line it up. Turn that first one in all the way and it'll hold it for you to get the rust in. Brake, basic settings, inlining change mode. There we go. Just in time before the phone died. And then once that's all done, you're going to want to make sure you pump your brake pedal before you take off. If you don't, you'll take off and you won't have brakes till you slam it all the way to the floor, so make sure you do that. But that's going to wrap up the brake tutorial. Now we're going to move on to the spark plug and coil packs. We'll start with removing this engine cover. Now we did a TSI swap to our shop vac. Let's remove all these ground wires first. That might make it a little bit easier.
Are you okay?
It's hot. Alright, and then just be patient with these plugs. I know they can be frustrating, but if you're patient with them, You can get them off without breaking them. You just wiggle your coil packs out. One thing you want to look for is oil down in here. There's a little bit of oil, but it's not soaked. So it might be soon time to think about doing the valve cover, but it's not completely shot yet. If you're just replacing the spark plugs, keep your coil packs in order. That way, if you have a misfire, it's a little bit easier to track down which coil's bad. If you're replacing them with new coil packs, doesn't really matter. You can just toss these in the bin or in the trunk for spares if you weren't having any issues with them. So weird bird feather and a bug, but no, we'll okay. We got a monsoon here. Unexpected, or maybe we did expect it, but anyway, get the spark plugs out. It's just going to be a standard spark plug socket. You know, put that in there till it grabs a spark plug and just spin them out. They weren't too bad. Volkswagen Audi Group NGKs. Good chance they were the original plugs. Got our new laser NGK iridiums. We're going to slowly put that down in the hole and get it started by hand. And don't be afraid to snug these up. But once they get tight, they're tight. We got our APR coil packs. Look at that. Those look nice in there. You won't see them under that engine cover, but bolt.
Oh, I don't know if that one likes that hole. We might have to get this one started too, it won't go.
Bring these all down. We're gonna get these plugs in. Click, 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 click. Our ground wires.
My pocket nuts.
You're not supposed to have nuts.
They're my pocket nuts.
Okay.
Now the shop back's not cool anymore.
Fine. It'll be okay. Come on, baby. Alright guys, thanks for watching. That's going to wrap this video up. I'm going to be doing another video on this at some point as soon as Chris can get it to me about the APR short shift kit. So if you guys are interested in that, we'll do a whole video just on that. It's getting late. He needs the car back. It's got to go to the body shop for some body sensors and stuff. When they redid his front bumper, they messed him up, so he's going to get that taken care of. I don't want to leave it in a predicament where I can't get it done, so he can't get it to the shop. So we're going to wrap everything up. Hopefully you guys learned something. If you did, please drop a like on this video. It'll make it show up higher up in the search feed for other people to find. If you guys enjoy content like this, we post daily or weekly videos Friday nights at 7. Not daily yet. Brandy would kill me if we did daily videos. But make sure you subscribe to the channel so you guys can see all that content.
And maybe some drifting and burnouts.
And maybe some drifting and burnouts. If we fix a throttle cable on the BMW, because we broke that at the Lebanon Keller Brothers 2nd annual car show, doing the best burnout there in a BMW. Hopefully I'll have that video from that show uploaded, and then we also went to Cult Classic today, so hopefully by the time this uploads, hopefully that's already up. I am still working on the cruising, spring cruising video. That's a pretty big project, so I expect to have that done sometime before fall cruising. Can you see me? I feel like I'm over here. Alright guys, I guess the only other thing is
gotta take it home.
What?
We gotta take it home.
Well, yeah, we gotta run Chris's car home, but I don't want to forget, we want to thank ABW Auto Glass for sponsoring the YouTube channel. If you guys are in the Lancaster, Reading, Lebanon area, and you need any automotive glass, windshields, etc. done, give Barry a call. He's probably going to give you the best price around. He's going to come to you with mobile service and do a quality repair, so keep him in mind.